Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and I score them based on the store pages. In continuation of Sports Month and with respect to the Winter Olympics, today we are hitting the powder with Tricky Madness from Nathan Dirth, originally released in November of 2024 in early access. Wait, what? This is still in early access? Okay, you know what? I'm not even going to criticize that. I did just review another game a few weeks ago that's been in early access for around 12 years, so I really should just focus on what's here in front of us. Anyways, this game, at its surface and in its description, does look to be reminiscent of the kinds of trick centered boarding games known from the era of the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2 timeframe of gaming. The visuals are definitely a bit more modern, but the style and gameplay do appear to have that inspiration behind them. Now, part one of our review, we'd like to start with the trailers. We have exactly two extremely short trailers to think about here. The first trailer appears to showcase a character introduced in the August 2025 update, while the second wraps up with a simple message, update out now. And aside from those, they both showcase what does appear to be actual live gameplay footage showing tricks, characters, tracks, and the kind of visual flair to spark the interest in the game. The level variety does look pretty nice for as small of a game as it does appear to be at this point, and I am particularly fond of the city scenery that seems to have you moving across the tops of buildings. It's kind of a cool motif for a snowboarding stage. We do see we do see floating snowflakes, likely something to hit for bonus points, and get at least one collision that seems to give a little bit of a ragdoll reaction from the border. The music used does feel a bit on the generic side, giving some simple beat, but other parts of the sound design, like the creaking trees and the fireworks, are a nice touch. Though I do hope that the game has settings to turn off or at least tone down the voice monologues. They do seem like they fit the mood of the game, but after hours of gameplay, it might start to get a little annoying, like constantly hearing bounce pad in Sonic Boom. Now, part two of our review, we want to take a brief look at our screenshots. We do have a few to go through. What's this? About 9 screenshots to look at. We see the screenshot showing, the layout of the screen. You have the racers going on. So there are multi-character races, whether that's NPCs or multiplayer. There should be some multiplayer functions to the game. You see a speed meter going down here. Now, I don't know if that speed is actually real world accurate, but it at least gives you an idea of the kind of speed you're going for. Shows your place, the time, and your score with another little rating here saying freaky. That's probably like a special meter for getting special actions. So you are getting a lot of the UI on the screen here. We see another situation where 1, 2, 3 with some scores laid out here. So probably reaching those scores is how you get those kinds of ranks for your medals and whatnot. Trick name shown at the bottom here. Again, the snowflake showing here, a bit of a lower speed with the 72 miles per hour. So the screenshots are showing the aspects of the game and the user interface that you expect to see on screen. That's good. I do like to see that. Another character here giving a bit of a nose grab, a flying nose grab, which I have to wonder. I'm pretty sure that a move like this is probably not common in snowboarding, considering that people are usually, strapped into the board. So maybe some negative points for lack of realism. But at the same time, a game like this, you might not always be playing it for the absolute realism. You're playing it for the spectacle. And quite honestly, when it comes to the games, I think fun does trump absolute realism. We see another screenshot here. Now, this screenshot looks like the kind of thing that you would see on a wallpaper, except the character does seem to have like just kind of a bland, pouty face going. I wonder if that might be something to kind of think about when giving like the graphic design, graphic layout here. But the framing of the trees in this shot, like this screenshot was clearly picked intentionally the way the trees frame this shot is kind of cool. Like I said, this one right here would just make a cool wallpaper. We have more track, the Yeehaw Big Show. That kind of feels like a little Mario Kart esque of a set piece. Although the tracks do seem to be not as decorated as something cartoonish like Mario Kart. But again, maybe that might not be the intent of it. We do see the character in 8th place. The freaky meter seems to be a little more filled out and colorful with score loaded up. And we see, oh, the characters doing grinds, getting multiplier combos on their scores. This one clearly a time trial where if you get your medal ranking based on the time. 50-50 to board slide handstand. Again, trick names on there that should be, I think that should be a standard for games like this. Now, full disclaimer, I have not played a lot of these kinds of games in recent years, but I did grow up around the time of the Nintendo 64, and I do remember renting like some snowboarding and Tony Hawk games from Blockbuster when I was a kid. So take that what you will. Of course, again, the score, the time, and everything loaded out. A little, splash art. Oh, I didn't even notice this my first time looking through, but it's got like this watercolor splash of butterfly wings behind the character. That is actually just a cool visual. Even if it's not like part of the gameplay, I could see that being an interesting thing for like promotional art for the character, along with, another character going on here, more promo art. This one, Ryan, I believe this was the character centered on that first trailer that seemed to just be kind of a Ryan showcase. Although, even if not looking at it for the sake of getting to know Ryan as a character, it's at least another depiction of the gameplay. And yeah, that was the August 1st release. Anyway, that's what we got here for that. So, part 3, we got to look at the store description and see exactly what we have going on here. Now, I did mention that this is in early access. So, early access games not complete, may or may not change further, but it does seem that the developers are active, even recently active as fresh up as December of last year, which isn't, I know that's been a couple months by now, but it's still, a good note for this. They do note here that they are in early access for approximately a year or two with continual updates. They currently say that they have 3 out of 8 planned levels and 4 out of 8 planned characters, with a planned campaign mode and multiplayer still awaiting further development. So the multiplayer seems to still be on the way. Hopefully it's not like a Game of Thrones dragon situation, and that hopefully, that they do get that up there for it. Mainly because games like this, I feel like the multiplayer is going to be the biggest draw. Getting to play with friends, even if that does require, multiple copies or people buying copies with their friends. And they do have note here about keeping their community important with feedback. I do like that they're, touching on all of that. The updates, they do have a showcase of updates that show even more video. Brand new map. They have basically a space boarding map here. So that's a cool little motif where it looks like it's possible to fall off the edges, a la Rainbow Road. Of course, as a snowboarding thing. On the last one before that, saying that the big station is on its way. The character profile here for Ryan, we do see a thing with new menus here. The I would have liked to see this menu in the screenshots on the base store page, but considering that it is still available to see here just by scrolling down a little bit, like you don't have to scroll too far to find this one, at least at this point in time. As the core gameplay is setting up really well, time to start polishing the game more, and new menus go a long way. So you do see the character and then your track selection. It does look kind of neat there, how they have that laid out, where, you have like the rotating cycle of stages. Another character, so Curtis, destructible objects, and more. So they are keeping players up to date with the updates that come out. Like this one appeared to have been from June of last year, and even a trailer here. So they had the Ryan trailer on the Steam store page, but left off the Curtis trailer. And even then, I feel like the store page is lacking a core game trailer. They seem to just kind of have a 30-second and a minute long kind of splash trailer about the updates as opposed to anything about the core game or the upcoming promises. So that's kind of a thing there. They do seem to hide a little bit up there in the updates, but again, the updates are still there for you to check out. And now in the formal about this game section, Tricky Madness is an upcoming arcade snowboarding game with a focus on speed and big air, inspired by classics like SSX and 1080. Again, reminiscent of that Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 2 era of games in this style. Points equal boost. Build up boost levels by scoring points while from. Okay, the wording's a little weird. Build up boost levels by scoring points while from tricks and grinding. That is actually how it's written. Upon landing, unleash a powerful boost for a limited time based on the level you've built. Frequent tricking is the key to enhancing your speed for a thrilling ride. Kind of sounds like the drift mechanics in Mario Kart, but of course, since this is a snowboarding motif, that's going to be their focus here. Wicked tricks. Build up your freaky meter with spins, flips, grabs, and grinds. Then perform wicked tricks and wicked grinds to really score big. The Superman, the Worm, and the butt slide grind are some of the many wicked tricks you can unleash as you style on the slopes. Again, probably throwing a little bit of realism completely out the window just for the sake of spectacle and fun, playing by the rule of cool on this one. Combos. Chain tricks together to score more points based on the number of tricks you perform in a combo. Extra points earned from combos are held in a separate counter and are cashed in when you stop the combo or completely lost if you wipe out. Manage this risk reward element, or managing. Oh, no, it does say manage this risk reward element is key to mastering the game. I will say they needed a proofreader on these descriptions because the grammar is a little bit jacked here, but not so much that you can't understand what they're actually trying to say. Planned features. They do go into the planned features here. 8 handcrafted levels with each of their own hidden surprises and unique experiences. A dedicated campaign mode set in an open world mountain with secrets and collectibles. That actually sounds kind of cool, especially if the price is kept low, just to kind of have that bit of chill exploration aspect to the game. I could see that being an interesting thing to just kind of sit back and chill with, even if the core game itself is still, still more about the excitement. It's still nice to have a bit of a relaxing mode on the side for that. 8 fully voiced characters with their own backstory, personality, and visual style. Now, they do say backstory, personality, and visual style. I'm wondering how much of that is going to play in here, or how much of that is even going to really matter when it comes to the thing. Maybe they have like a different campaign for each of the 8 planned characters. Um, or if their personality is basically just them spouting off one-liners in the race. I do hope that it's a little more in-depth than that, but at the same time, for a game like this, I'm wondering how much the general player base would even care about that kind of thing, since they're mostly just kind of skating avatars in the middle of the race. And then a voiced in-game DJ commentator hyping up your moves. And again, I did say that that was the one that might get a little annoying after hearing it for too long, depending on how much they recycle the same lines. That is our description here. It does give us a pretty good eye of what to look out for, even if the formatting on the page is a little weird. Like, they have their sections here, but then instead of a line break, they start up the words right up here at the end. I feel like there could have been a little proofreading and formatting fix in there, but that's a very minor nitpick, since you can still get the idea of what the point of the game is, where its inspiration comes from. So it's not really the worst thing to see on the store page. It just kind of like bleeds a little bit of that professionalism out of the store page, when, that's the kind of thing that we're trying to look at here in rank when we're looking at the game and how it's presented. Now, part 4 for our game analysis. Graphically speaking, okay, they do have some solid visuals here. It's not at the level of like photorealism that we saw from last week's NFL review, where they tried to make the characters look super photoreal to an extent. But at the same time, that kind of creates an uncanny valley. I do like the characters' designs. The way they're laid out, their moves are pretty wild. And like I said, I feel like I keep going back on how their movements do look a little unrealistic, but again, that's not the worst thing. Maybe that's a deal breaker for some people. Um, I know in the updates, like in the earliest updates, there was some notes about physics fixes. So maybe there's some stuff in there about how things look even better now or will look better given another, 3, 4, 6 months of development. As since this is early access and they do seem intent and active on keeping things moving forward in their development cycle. It's not like this is a abandoned early access game that's been sitting without an update for a whole year. Um, I don't know if I'm a big fan of how static the characters' faces look. Like all the screenshots we see of the characters close up, we see Ryan here with the goofy grin on his face, and I think in the update they did say that he's like the youngest character in the game so far. So him being like that goofy youth character, and then the female characters, they seem to all have like the same pouty expression, which for the game to tout that each character has like their own personality, I'm not seeing much of that personality come out in that promo material for those characters. But that that depends on how animated the characters' faces are or how much of that is still a work in progress. Because again, I do want to acknowledge that this is early access. There is still room for development. It's just that what I'm seeing right now, they all look very samey when it comes to their visual attitude. The sound, I know I mentioned this when talking about the trailers. The background music that I heard does sound like just kind of a very generic, like techno house beat kind of thing. Uh, that's not the worst thing, but it does kind of make it seem like if I'm playing the game, the music isn't going to stick in my head when that's going to be something that really pushes the hype of the stages. If you can get some tracks in there, some custom tracks, or licensing some high octane music for this kind of thing, although I know licensing is something that'll jack up the price. The generic tracks are definitely there for the lower price point that we're going to be looking at. So it does seem like it might be one of those kind of get what you pay for kind of things, considering that games with heavy focus on modern like pop music that would need to get the license, those games do tend to have a much higher price point, especially when it comes to trying to bleed people for DLC. The gameplay, it looks solid. Obviously, we can't see the actual controls of the game, but for people who remember, like I said, that Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 2 era of boarding games and style games like this, it does seem like you are getting exactly that experience. I don't know how much of a like younger modern player is going to really get out of this, considering especially right now in early access with what looks like they said 3 stages and 4 characters. I don't even know how much difference there is to the mechanics of the 4 characters. We don't exactly see something. We'll get into that in the menus and UI in a minute. Um, but the gameplay, it does look like it delivers what it promises with snowboarding races and multiple game modes. Now, the UI and menus. We do see the UI across the screenshots with scores, timers, trick names, a little bit of visual flair, the bonus point snowflakes, and all that stuff. We see all of that on the screen, on the display during active gameplay. What I don't see, except for that one screenshot that was in the updates where they mentioned that they were making some updates to the menu select and the UI, which that looked good, but we don't see that here on the front of the store page. If we just had 1 or 2 screenshots added in of those kinds of things, show us the stage select menu, show us the character select, maybe show if the characters have stats that show like, okay, say one character is more skilled at turns, because those kinds of things that makes character selection matter. If a character has more speed or more stability or more skill with turning, that could make it matter which character you choose outside of being like, okay, which character do you want staring at you with this pouty face as you're doing menu select kind of thing? Like, well, what more? What else are we getting out of the characters? If we at least saw even just a single character with that information on display, that would be something nice to see. Now, the final part of this review, or of most of our reviews, is the pricing. Now, this game is in early access, and they did say that the price is going to increase throughout early access and going into its full release. But right now, it is $8, $7.99 on Steam to buy Tricky Madness. And that is, for a game like this, I feel like I don't know that I would want to spend $8 for 3 stages and 4 characters without even having multiplayer yet. Like I said, they did say that multiplayer is in the works on the store page and in the early access information. So paying $8 for it now, I don't know that I'm completely sold on that. But I feel like if the multiplayer was implemented, then $8 would be something that I could, maybe not for myself, but for players who want this kind of game so that they can play with friends. That's the kind of price that would be okay for, people to just get together once in a while, because $8, it's not a huge amount. That's not even a meal from a fast food restaurant at this point in time, how inflation's going. But $8, it's especially for the early access, when you know that you're probably going to be getting more from it with the developer uh, getting these updates up there, having been putting updates out. Now, they don't put them out as frequently as the Project Zomboid developers were putting out their updates. It seems very much like they put out an update for something when they have something, as opposed to, giving something every week or every month. But we do have an update as recent as December with, more characters and stuff added in and the fix to some of the menus. So the $8 does seem like a fair price for people that want to get in on the ground level of this. Um, a sports game like this is not exactly the kind of game I would see myself buying or snapping up, even at like the very fair $8 price tag for it. But I feel like if I was in the market for this kind of thing, I would probably wait for some more features, or at least like have more levels, like more than 3 levels to play on for that $8. But at the same time, when you're certain that you're getting more, it's not the worst place to drop $8. So with that, I do not now, mind you, this score is not a complete negative of the game. I do think the game is favorable, but for the store page, for what I'm looking at here, I'm going to have to rate this a 5 out of 10, in part for the lack of content and in part for some of that information, like I said, was missing from the UI. The music I'm not too thrilled on. Like I said, it does sound a little generic. I do hope now, again, the voice, there's probably a way to turn off the narrator voice. I would hope, at least in the options. Or if there's not, I'm sure the developer can go ahead and shoehorn that in somewhere without, hopefully without breaking something. Um, this I would put up the score with maybe some more gripping music and more stages. Even if I didn't have more than 3 or 4 characters to play with, having more than 3 stages and knowing that I'm going to get that multiplayer, knowing that we're not going to like fall off the development. If the multiplayer was currently in there, I would instantly bump that up, because this is the kind of game that I would much rather play with people rather than just play endlessly against a computer. There is that promise of an open world exploration mode on a fully interconnected mountain. That is a cool feature. And honestly, that's the kind of thing that I would probably even snap this up for $8. But I feel like when that is put in, the price is probably going to go up a little bit. But as it stands right now, what I'm looking at on this is a 5 out of 10 with a with a lot of room for improvement, but but I do have the faith that the developer has that improvement in mind. So bear in mind that me scoring this 5 out of 10 is based on the store page and the presentation, not on the lack of quality of the game itself, because it does look like a fun game. And when it comes to the games, let's be fair, fun is the ultimate thing that needs to matter here. even if games are like completely jank, if they are fun jank like Goat Simulator or something, that's good. Seeing something like this, it's like I have high hopes for where this is going, and I do hope that their community and their hype stays up on this because I would like to see something like this succeed, especially for Nathan Dirth. I don't even think that's a studio name. I think that's just the dude's actual name. And if he's doing this as a solo project, then major props to him for that alone. With that, yeah, that's the kind of thing. Now, again, who would I recommend this to? Somebody, like I said, somebody who wants to get this on the ground level, who wants to, get those updates in real time. Getting it right now for $8 is a great price as long as you know you're getting those features down the line. Um, I did go over what would kind of raise the score for me is if I saw those extra features in fruition. Now, I do have faith that they are going to happen, and when those things come out, that would be the time that I would bump up to a 6 or possibly even an easy 7. Even as somebody who doesn't really play or appreciate sports games all that much, I do see this game having the room and the capacity to be something genuinely enjoyable for its community and for its intended audience. Now, remember, the views expressed here are purely opinions. We all have different tastes when it comes to entertainment media, and I gladly welcome differing opinions and respectful criticism in the comments. And yes, I have gotten comments that this idea for a review series is absolutely dumb since, I haven't played the games. But at the same time, I fully agree. In my defense, I was left unsupervised when I started this series. For those of you who have purchased this, let me know what you guys think too. If anybody out there has played this, I would like to know what your thoughts are, what kind of advancements you've seen from your original purchase date of this, because updates have clearly happened on the game since it first hit early access. So that pattern and that kind of going forward with the notes of their intentions and everything, I do hope that the developer does have that positive feedback and that positive repertoire with his player base.